All right, that's it. Right, perfect.
Shaded shadow, like that one is nice. Like here, there's much less light. And then again, those areas maybe.
I'm Marie Tabassum. Our exhibition here at the TOTO Gallery is named People Place Poiesis. And the reason for this title is actually encompassing the way we do our practice and our work. That includes people, which is in the context of Bangladesh, it's a 150 million people country. And we are working both in the cities and also in the countryside and in the villages, and also with displaced people who actually doesn't have a place as such. So when we talk about people, we also talk about the fact that we engage with local communities when we do our work. At the same time, the place is also important, because I think place for me has all the information about the location, the geography, the climate, that gives us our uniqueness as people, the diversity that we all carry with us. And so the place, it actually informs our work, but at the same time, we also create place. So that is a sort of an intertwined relationship. And the poiesis is actually, to me, it's a kind of a process that involves the way we do our practice. So you include people and place, but at the same time, through process, we create all our intellectual and creative endeavors are coming through a process. And to me, that is the part of the poiesis that brings it all together. So that's why in holistically, I think it's an interesting title to call it People Place Poiesis. As our projects are based in the city, the periphery of the city, and also, as I mentioned, countryside, also working with displaced communities, we've tried to divide the exhibition because we have two spaces in TOTO Gallery. So the lower level, which is on the third floor, we tried to bring to focus all the projects that we do, especially in the villages and in the countryside, including our works for the displaced communities, both internal displacement and cross-border displacement, such as the Rohingya refugees who are living in Bangladesh. But at the same time, it was for me also an introduction to Bangladeshi landscape, because the way our projects are, like the Panigram Resort or Khudibari, they are very much located in the villages and in the countryside. And it also is a response to the kind of geography we have. So the land formation, the climate, all the information, in a way, in a very narrative way, we try to bring to focus that. So in the exhibition, it's not only you see projects that we have designed, but it also gives you a certain glimpse of how Bangladesh is. So the lower level is about that. And of course, the installation of Wisdom of the Land also brings to focus the way people live their life very symbiotically with nature. And on the fourth floor, where we have our projects mostly focused on in the cities, especially Dhaka being the main base of our practice. So most of our projects are in Dhaka and in the periphery of the Dhaka city. And we quite often work with the local and urban context. And we have high-rises that we have designed, being a very dense, one of the densest cities in the world and one of the fastest growing cities. We have a lot of high-rise buildings where people are mostly living in apartments. So there are some of those kind of projects. There are some projects also which deals with density and at the same time how you can organize spaces such as community centers or mosques. And also at the same time, a museum in a park, and within that area how you really deal with this whole issue of greenery and saving the green by taking the building below grade in a non-building approach. So I think every project is a response to the context of the city and the periphery, where it is quite a lot of chaos, and we try to create and bring sort of order into the chaotic environment. And you'll see that these buildings, especially on the 4th floor, are mostly permanent, more static buildings, rather than what you see in the 3rd floor, which is much more softer, much more impermanent in a way. And so quite often we use brick as a material. So the lower floor is more about mud and movability and natural material, whereas on the upper floor it's mostly about brick, which is of course baked earth. In Bangladesh we only have earth as a material. And so these are the two, in a way I would say contrast, but at the same time there is a certain kind of continuity also. And so that's how we've tried to sort of bring the two floors in two different aspects, bringing the city in a certain way, and the lower level it's more about Bangladesh. So in the courtyard we have one full-scale kudibari. Kudibari is a tiny house. Kudi is small and bari is a house. That's a Bengali word. And the kudibaris are the structural system or a structure or house that we designed for the displaced communities who are living in the sandbeds in the middle of the rivers. And Bangladesh has more than 700 rivers. And in the large rivers like the Podda, Jamuna, Tista, and Meghna, there are people living in the middle of the river in the sandbeds who are actually displaced communities facing climate crisis and also different kind of geographical and climatic challenges. So this is a project that we came up with in 2020 during the COVID time. And for the next 3-4 years, we have been building these houses with the local communities, sharing our ideas and also the construction techniques so that people have the knowledge of building the houses. And so we decided to bring one of these houses for this exhibition here in TOTO Gallery. And at the same time, we wanted to collaborate with Morita Lab, and Morita-san actually with his students came up with the Japanese version of the kudibari, and I think that's a beautiful and a unique way of sort of connecting the two situations in two projects, where you see that the materials are a bit different, but we tried out the same structural system that is quite universal, can be used anywhere on earth. In the case of the Japanese kudibari, we have wood as a material and tied together with rope, and more natural materials being used. So I think it's a beautiful juxtaposition of these two different buildings, but of the same sort of design and language. And in the middle we have an installation which we have created, sort of an homage to the rivers of Bangladesh, and gives you a certain sense that why rivers are so important for us. It's a waterscape. Bangladesh is, to me, a waterscape more than a landscape because of the land being formed entirely by bringing of silt from the Himalayas as the rivers are flushing into the Bay of Bengal. So all the siltation actually created this delta, which is the largest delta in the world, the Ganges Delta. And the rivers are absolutely it's almost crisscrossing the vein of the entire landscape. So for me, that's a very important way of showcasing what Bangladesh is all about. And I do hope that what we bring to focus is not just our architectural work, but it's also a glimpse of our culture, our heritage, and the richness of our heritage. So I really hope that everybody comes and enjoys the exhibition. Hi, I'm Marina Tabassum. I'm an architect. So this is a book that was published by TOTO publication called The Resilient Landscape. And it's a book of our works of our office, Marina Tabassum Architects. The book is designed basically in two different parts. One talks about the land, the country, and in many ways it's also about the nature, community, and shelter, and fluid land and trust for resilience. So that is the first part where we have most of our works that are done in the context of the Bangladeshi Delta. And so it talks about the land formation and how the whole land is being created in the land in Bangladesh. And at the same time, we have our projects such as the Kudibari, which is designed for the displaced communities living in the sandbeds. But at the same time, we also have projects that we have designed in the refugee camps. So these are the projects that you see in the beginning of the book. And then it moves on to the projects which are more in the cities. So the second part of the book is actually on the cities, but in between we have a conversation that we did between me and Shigeru Ban-san, which I think was for me a very memorable event where we were quite beautifully sort of responding to each other and talking, and I think it is quite beautifully captured here. And from that point on, you move to the city and the contemporary sustainable city, basically. That's what it is here. And here we showcase our works mostly that are done in the city of Dhaka and in the periphery of Dhaka. That includes Baitur Rauf Mosque, the Alfadanga Mosque, and also the community center, apartment buildings that we have designed. So all those are showcasing in the second part of the book. One other very interesting conversation, or rather a piece, is by Momoyo Kaijima-san, where she actually went to Bangladesh for 2 days before she wrote this piece. And it's quite beautifully also written here by her observation and her experiences in Bangladesh. Basically, I think the book definitely gives an insight into our work, the way we practice. There are images, there's also drawings, but it also has small narratives that talks about each and every project. And I think for a reader, going through this book would give them a good insight into Bangladesh, our pursuit in architecture, and the different kind of projects that we are focusing on. And quite often our works are very much embedded into the land. It's very rooted, but at the same time, there is a certain kind of contemporariness about it. So I think it's very appropriate of the time that we're living in, especially in Bangladesh, where we have so much of disparity between economic conditions. Because of the climate crisis, there's so many different ways people are being affected and impacted. And those are issues that we try to focus on and we try to work with. And I think that is a reflection that's already there in the book. So this would give them some insight into that. So I really hope people enjoy the book.